With South Park premiering its 27th season next year, here's all 12 South Park movies ranked from worst to best. This will include all the Paramount specials, a theatrical movie, and the short films that started it all. There'll be video chapters in case you want to hear me cover any specific movies, and let's begin. In last place, kinda by default, is The Spirit of Christmas. This is the first South Park short ever made, and it is weird. The episode starts with the boys building a snowman, but Stan tells him not to put the hat on it as it killed his sister.
Fuck him, let's do it anyway, yeah.
Wait a second, did Kenny just talk? The snowman comes to life and immediately kills... Carbon?
Oh my god! Frosty killed Kenny!
Wait, Carmen was supposed to be Kenny? The boys ask Santa for help, but then he turns into Frosty and kills Kenny. Or I guess in this short his name is Cartman. They turn to Jesus for help, leading to a battle of epic sound effects. Stan and Kyle go home and the episode ends. I know I'm stretching the definition of a movie, but if it's on Letterboxd, I'm counting it. It's interesting to see how the show was originally envisioned, and there's a couple of funny jokes, but I wouldn't watch it if I wasn't making this video. Next up is the Streaming Wars, and above it is part 2. I didn't dislike this special as much as most, but man did this drag. All the rest of the specials, and most of South Park as a whole, has really good commentary that's easy to understand but still enough not to be in your face. The message was completely lost on me here. Man Bear Pig is supposed to be an allegory for climate change, so why does he have kids? And a wife? What is that supposed to mean? PP is both the best and worst character in the special. The idea of a water park that's 50% pee is hilarious and honestly not that far off from most water parks, but the accent gets really annoying very fast.
This drought, it affected everybody. It affected me, my water park.
There's a lot of scenes in here that don't even have a joke in them, and while the animation is really good here, there's a couple of montages of the boys making boats that go nowhere. It's slow, convoluted, and not very funny. For some reason the jokes just didn't land here. It has some good parts, especially in part 2 where Randy goes back to his old self for a little bit, but this honestly could have been a 1-hour special and would have been a lot better. Next up is The Spirit of Christmas, and before you ask, wait, didn't you talk about this? Well, apparently there's 2 South Park shorts named The Spirit of Christmas, and this one's a lot better. The episode starts with Jesus coming back to South Park.
I come seeking retribution.
He's come to kill you because you're Jewish, Kyle. Oh, I'm sorry, Jesus.
He says he's looking for the mall, so the boys lead him to it.
Who are you looking for?
Him. Ho, ho, ho. We meet again, Jesus.
Jesus is mad at Santa for making Christmas about himself, and they get ready to fight. I also love how Santa just throws a kid off his lap, and the fighting choreography is hilarious. And Kenny actually dies in this version, so 10 out of 10. To resolve the issue, the boys ask what Brian Boitano would do.
Did someone say my name?
Brian Boitano, who for some reason has realistic eyes, tells them that Christmas is a time to come together and rejoice, which ends Jesus and Santa's feud.
What's your think? Today we actually met. We actually spoke to thee, Brian Boitano.
This version of The Spirit of Christmas is a lot more akin to what the show would become, even though the image of realistic guys on a South Park character is now engraved in my memory. Santa acts very different from how he is in the main show, Kai being another Cartman.
Christmas still is about one very important thing. Yeah, ham. No, not ham, you fat.
There are some good jokes in here that made me laugh, and I'll definitely rewatch this before The Streaming Wars. Even if The Streaming Wars is technically the better movie, this one doesn't drag like those specials do. Next up is the Pandemic special. So I'm kinda cheating here including this as it wasn't produced by Paramount, but since I'm including post-COVID and this and the Vaccination special leads up to post-COVID, and they're both on Letterboxd, I might as well talk about them. It really is a product of its time in a way. A lot of the jokes and overall feel of this special did take me back to 2020 when I thought it was the end of the world. This is actually one of the first South Park episodes I watched and made me laugh in a very depressing time, which is a good quality for a comedy to have. Cartman enjoying the pandemic and being mad when he's forced to come back to school was really funny and in character for him. The whole subplot where the police become teachers and shoot Token for no reason was also great and led to some funny lines.
We were there and Token was actually taken to the hospital because you guys shot him.
Yes, due to COVID. If it weren't for COVID, all the previous teachers would have still been here, we wouldn't have been in the class, and nobody would have gotten shot.
It was COVID related.
The best part of this special, though, is the Randy subplot, which may be one of the most ridiculous and disgusting subplots in South Park history, And that's saying something. So basically, the scientists find out that COVID traces back to a bat found in Wuhan, which worries Randy because on December 2019, he and Mickey Mouse committed poo-ting with a bat in Wuhan. As it turns out though, it wasn't a bat but a pangolin, which of course he committed poo-ting with as well. He steals the pangolin from a research center so they don't find out that he caused COVID. But he starts to feel bad about the effect the pandemic is having. So he comes up with a way to create a cure for COVID. He comes up with an AI and getting demonetized. He puts his DNA into the greenery on his plant farm and sells a jar of plants so that people inhale said plants with his DNA in it, since his DNA was the one injected into the pangolin that caused COVID. As it turns out though, instead of stopping COVID, it just gives people who inhale it a mustache, which got a really big laugh out of me the first time I saw it. I also love how they call the masks chin diapers, which becomes a recurring joke in later specials.
Oh, hey, if you're gonna come any closer, would you mind wearing a, chin diaper? Oh, sorry.
Next up is a Vaccination special. I guess the reason this and the pandemic special isn't higher on the list is that it kind of feels outdated in 2024. I'm okay with this. South Park has always commented on the times, but a lot of it feels like an inside joke that I vaguely remember, and I know a lot of people won't get if they didn't live through it. There were a lot of funny gags here, like the local Walmart giving vaccines being like a nightclub that only a select few can get in.
You're wasting your time! Oh, hello, ma'am. Right this way.
Oh, 79!
It was great to see Mr. Garrison back to his old self after being Trump for 4 years, and the fourth wall breaking in the animation was great. I found the jokes a lot more funny in this one, especially that substitute teacher that traumatizes a kid.
Alright, sit down. We don't have much time.
Huh?
Tom Hanks and Oprah are just two at the very top of an elite group of people who control everything we see and do. They feed upon children in order to maintain their elite status, and that isn't the worst of it. Do you know what is? Here, let me show you.
I think it's just a better version of the pandemic special with a much more uplifting message than most. Next up is South Park, not suitable for children. Out of all the specials on this list, I think this might be the most relevant for a number of reasons. This episode is about cred, the new sports drink that's all the rage, and the person who has the most cred is the most popular in school. It took me a while to figure out that cred is short for credibility, so the more cred you have, the more credibility you have. Man, the show's smart. Of course, this is supposed to be Prime, and there's even a Jake Paul stand-in as well.
Drink cred or you're a piece of
Even though cred is not intended for children, it is not healthy by any means. Obviously, the only people drinking are children, and they make it very clear through the commercials.
Fastest growing sports drink in history.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's a real commercial that has kids wanting Prime. Here's a parody.
I can't feel my face!
I love how a lot of the kids in this special are voiced by real kids. It just makes the absurd things they say a lot more funny. The scene where the mob of kids are literally fighting to the death for cred is great, and it tells a good message on how people market things that are unhealthy or not appropriate for kids, which still remains relevant to this day. Like Lunchy, which was launched a few weeks ago, ironically made by the same people of Prime. This scene continues with the B-plot of the episode, which has Randy making a— wait a second, let me find a way to say this without getting demonetized.
A few moments later.
The B-plot is Randy gained an OnlyFries account after learning how much someone can make off of it. Sharon gets mad about it and starts an OnlyFries account herself to get back at Randy. Randy tries to use something that's popular and trending to get a lot of views, so he buys a bunch of cred and pours it onto his fries, which gets a lot of views. Sharon, rightfully so, tells him that the reason his videos gain a lot of views is because kids are watching it.
Children aren't allowed on OnlyFans, Sharon. It's totally safe. Kids aren't gonna see this.
And yeah, the creators are aware that a lot of kids watch South Park too. I don't mean teenagers, I mean kids in elementary school who post TikToks about South Park. That's kind of disturbing. Everything they touch on in the special is still happening today, while the COVID specials remain in the past, which is why they're below this one. Next up is joining the Panderverse. This episode is about Cartman getting dreams of everyone in South Park being replaced by diverse women. This is obviously satirizing when Hollywood makes reboots to movies where they race swap a character, which is still happening today, and people are still complaining about it and cause this whole culture war online, which I'm not going to get into. This special takes it to the extreme where Cartman is sent to an alternate reality where everyone's changed, and the other version of him gets sent to his universe. The boys don't believe that she is Cartman, so they get sent to PC Principal's office, who I'm surprised is not used more in this episode. He asks why they have a problem with Cartman suddenly being a black woman.
What's wrong is it doesn't make any sense.
The scene actually brings up a lot of good points about this topic and what makes a good character.
Probably don't like that Indiana Jones got replaced by a female either, huh? Probably have a problem with Black Spider-Man too.
No, Miles Morales is sweet. That's a whole constructed thing with its own character and narrative, and this is just taking Cartman, same old Cartman, and putting a black woman in it.
This is probably the best commentary South Park has made in a while. They really explain their views perfectly, all while still making fun of both sides. Cartman's paranoia of Kathleen Kennedy as if she's a boogeyman in movies is great, and everything involving Disney is hilarious. My favorite part of this episode, though, is a B-plot about Randy finding out that his kids don't know how to do anything, so he takes them to the kitchen to show them how to fix an oven.
You gotta make the hinges tighter so the oven door is more secure. So what you do is, you take out your phone, and you call the handyman.
The handyman says he can't help him until a later date because he's already helping a bunch of other people.
I don't know. It's like nobody knows how to do shit anymore.
He goes to Home Depot to find broke illegal immigrants to help him fix his oven, but instead of finding everyday working men, he finds white-collar workers looking for someone to help him fix stuff, making it a funny subversion of stereotypes.
I can trade you services. I have geology skills. Could you come fix my door and I'll give you some geology?
Hey, why don't you guys get out of here? You're making the Home Depot look all shitty.
The entire subplot and the ridiculous way it connects to the main plotline is some of the smartest writing in any of these specials. That's up as the end of Obesity. I don't know, call it recency bias, but this felt like classic South Park. It's only 53 minutes, it doesn't waste any time or half-ass anything, it's just a damn good South Park film that knows what it wants to say and says it well. This episode partly talks about the American healthcare system, cereal brands Ozempic and Lizzo. I honestly didn't know about Ozempic or the issues surrounding it, making this another South Park special that taught me something. The Lizzo commercial was great and not far off from what normal drug commercials look like. I think the YouTuber Bloom said best in his review, which I'll link in the description. Every character is featured here. While in most specials it felt like only one or two characters were being focused on while the rest were sidelined, this special felt like a classic South Park episode as it brought all the main characters into the story in a way that makes sense. The chase scene at the end was also really well done. It's nice to see them improve their animation and make an action scene that's genuinely pretty thrilling. If this was a tier list, it'll be an A tier, just a perfect South Park movie. Also, I know I'm going back and forth between calling these specials or movies. I know that I'm stretching this video by calling them movies, but I don't know where I'm going with this. This video is just dumb. In third place is South Park Post-COVID, and while we're at it, in second place is South Park Post-COVID, The Return of COVID. I love that title, and man is this great. Not only is this great, but I think this may have saved the show. I'll get to that later. I thought a rewatch these movies would be a little outdated because, you know, it's about COVID, but this isn't really a movie about COVID, it's about the future. If you think about it, South Park through its 20 plus seasons never did a future episode until now. Even The Simpsons has like 10 different futures, and Family Guy had a couple, but never South Park. So you can imagine that they probably had many ideas for future jokes that they're finally able to use in the special. It's honestly really interesting with where they take these characters. This is probably the most fleshed out Stan has been as a character, and seeing what people like Randy, Butters, and Kenny became in the future is really interesting. My favorite part is probably Cartman. The first time I watched this, I was wondering who Cartman would be in the future. A homeless man, a billionaire, a professional hot dog eater. I was prepared for him to be anything. There was no way they could surprise me. And somehow, it chose the last thing I would expect him to be, a rabbi. And this is probably my favorite joke in South Park. It's incredible. The running gags in these specials are great, and I love how they make fun of their own exposition.
Now, of course, we only take Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency because, you know, it's the future.
Yeah, I know.
Now, of course, it is the future, so we don't have any meat on the menu because, you know, here in the future, we've all decided meat is wrong.
Yeah, we know.
Someone's at the door. It's the future, so doorbells sing.
Yeah, I know.
I love these stupid balls people have on their heads. It reminds me of the cameras in real life. Shout out to the two people who understood that reference. Alexa being like a disgruntled wife, the random Blade Runner references to show how dystopian the future is. I love all these jokes. But this movie also surprisingly has a lot of heart. The backstory on how Sharon and Shelly died is dark, and the scene where Randy kind of forgives Stan for killing them, even though it's not really his fault, was really sad. This really does feel like a dystopian future where everyone is miserable, except for Cartman. And the ending actually had a really good message that the only way to end the pandemic is for everyone to forgive each other. For a show that a lot of people consider to be very cynical and pessimistic, this part was pretty wholesome. The reason this isn't a 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, and trust me, I considered it, is because there's still some stuff that feels kind of outdated. The NFT jokes were really clever, but also didn't age well. I forgot how everyone thought this was going to be a whole new currency, and now it's 2024, and I completely forgot about it. The Space Jam 2 jokes also feel like a product of its time, although I do think it comes together really well at the end.
I'm sorry, I thought about it, and I can't do Space Jam 2. I just can't support Chinese censorship. Well, if you're not gonna make Space Jam 2, then I'm not gonna make Space Jam 2. And nobody's gonna make Space Jam 2! Yeah! Yeah!
Still the best two specials in the whole Paramount fiasco, but not the best movie. In first place is South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. I'm not being ironic when I say this. This is not only one of the best animated films of all time, this is not only one of the best comedies of all time, but this may be the best musical of all time. Yes, it's a musical, I'm not that into musicals, but my god, the songs are good. I have the soundtrack in my playlist, I listen to it constantly, and one of the songs, Blame Canada, was nominated for an Oscar. South Park got nominated for an Oscar. The same show that has Kanye West swimming in the ocean singing about how he's a gay fish over a joke about fish sticks got nominated for an Oscar. But it's not just the music, the comedy and the writing here is top notch. Every joke lands, it feels like the creators are giving it their all. The movie is about the boys watching the Terrence and Phillip movie Ashes of Fire, where they learn a lot of new words that if I didn't censor, I would probably get deleted off the face of YouTube.
Call me oh, you
They repeat the words everywhere they go, and soon all the kids of South Park know them. The parents get mad, but quickly realize that maybe it's their fault that they let their kids watch them even though they were not mature enough. So they have a nice talk to the boys, explain to them what the words mean and why they shouldn't. I'm just kidding, they blame the movie, arrest Terrence and Phillip, and completely ignore their kids.
Mom, we think you're going too far. You can't kill Terrence and Phillip.
We must fight for our children's futures!
You started a war, you have to stop it.
To make them safe again!
Hello?
Our children are precious!
Hello?
So if you haven't noticed by now, Terrence and Phillip are an exaggerated version of South Park and what people thought South Park was like, that being crass humor and fart jokes. Ashes of Fire is this movie, the movie I'm talking about right now, talk about being meta, and the parents are reacting how the creators thought people would react to the movie and how people were reacting to the show at the time.
Here at the Anti-South Park League, we've come up with yet another reason why South Park should be banned.
Reason number 459. When played backwards, Kenny's dialogue is satanic.
I am Satan. Love me.
Aha! Did you hear that?
The movie is about censorship. Instead of just ignoring South Park and watching something else, people will call for its cancellation and how it's affecting the youth. The swearing continues and Kenny dies trying to replicate a stunt from the movie. The parents have had enough, leading to the best song in the movie and also the song that got nominated for an Oscar.
Should we blame the government or blame society?
Or should we blame the images on TV?
No! Blame Canada! Blame Canada!
This song is hilarious. The movie's complete and utter hate for Canada is great considering that Canada is probably the most inoffensive country in North America with the least racism towards it.
They're not even a real country anyway.
Like, if this song was about blaming Mexico, it would have a completely different vibe, but making it Canada and creating these made-up stereotypes like the floating heads is hilarious. And this line at the end is genius. And that's only one of the themes of censorship in this movie. If you don't know, the MPAA was really hard on this movie, and Matt and Trey were constantly fighting for the movie not to be rated NC-17. You know the song that I can't say the name of, sung by Terrence and Phillip? The MPAA almost made the movie NC-17 because of it, so they changed the word from mother to uncle, and went back down to an R. Our national rating system, America. It came to a point that if the movie had 400 swear words, it would get that rating. So you know how many swear words they put in there? 399. Because one more swear word would just be too much.
Just remember what the MPAA says. Horrific, deplorable violence is okay, as long as people don't say any naughty words.
This movie is amazing. The fact that I can have this very profound and complex message about censorship that shows how dumb and nonsensical the MPAA is, and a really fantastic lineup of award-winning songs, all having Saddam Hussein and Satan as the main villains, and it all works. This movie is why I love South Park. It has something to say and doesn't say up front. It talks about real world issues in a reasonable way and touches on topics that most shows wouldn't be able to. If you want a show that's just dark humor, watch Family Guy. Because even though I like the early seasons and even made a video on it, it just doesn't have the nuance South Park has. It doesn't say anything. It's just dumb fun, which, while yes is really funny, doesn't leave you with something to think about at the end. Every movie I talked about in this video is able to be funny and gives you something to think about, even the streaming wars. And that's why Bigger, Longer, and Uncut is the best movie. It's funny, well written, really entertaining, but the commentary is what sets it apart from everything else. And one last fact about this movie, Saddam Hussein was shown this movie in prison and naturally really liked it. So yeah, first place. If you want a long video where I watch one episode from each season of Family Guy, consider clicking on the screen right now. Tell me your ranking in the comments and have a good day.